Today on the news and why it matters, a court in Idaho is ordering the state to pay for transgender surgery for someone in jail. The governor says, yeah, that's not happening. Also, Joe Biden, he does not appear to be well. I feel like there's a new video every day that surfaces showing something is just not right. And Ilhan Omar, new allegations about her personal life and an affair. A lot to come. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, joined today by Mr. Stubergear, who is back from vacation.
Yes, thank you.
Staycation.
Staycation.
Was really fun.
Was very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And then conservative commentator Grant Stinchfield. Thank you for being here.
Always happy to be here.
Aaron, we've got you double duty.
Twice in a row.
Aaron Colin from theblaze.com. Thank you for being here. Before we get into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. So American Financing, I like to say, I don't know why they haven't used this as their primary motto, is that they're too smart. They're smart enough not to do business with Stubergear. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it's not all over their marketing material.
Yes, I mean, look, it's a lot of people do brag about not being friends with me and not interacting with me, so it would be a good idea for them to do. But no, they haven't pulled the trigger on that one. I did actually do business with them, and they helped me go through a bunch of loan options and had some really good ones. But they actually were they had enough integrity to be able to say, hey, you know what, you're a moron for wanting to do this loan. You should do it with somebody else. They didn't want to take my money for any reason. So I thought that was a good way of looking at it. It was like they walked me through every little piece of it, and they said, this is why we think this would be a better loan for you, but you can go ahead and go with that one. By the way, the one I went with, it's already been sold to 3 other companies, so I don't even know who I'm paying anymore. They're probably right, is probably what I would say at the end of it.
And they are salary-based professionals. They're not commission-based. So like Stu said, they're not in it for, a kickback or for what's best for them. They really are in it for you, and they want to get you in the best position, the best deal possible for you and your family and your situation. So you can go to AmericanFinancing.net if you've got a refi, you've got a new home to purchase, whatever the case may be. AmericanFinancing.net, or you can call 800-906-2440. Interesting news day, gentlemen. There was the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled on Friday that the state of Ohio has to pay for a male-to-female gender reassignment surgery of an inmate who is in prison for sexually abusing a 15-year-old boy. The Governor Brad Little, has said taxpayer money cannot go to pay for this surgery. But it does pose an interesting question, Stu. Their reasoning was that to not do this would be cruel and unusual punishment. Am I getting that right?
I mean, it's a bizarre argument, right? I mean, when you go to prison, you forfeit a lot of rights. One's much more fundamental than being, having to get gender reassignment surgery. Things like walking around and going out to dinner and all of the things that you abandon because you've committed a crime like sexual assault. We act as if that has to be, given to every inmate. It doesn't, right? I mean, we were already locking them behind bars. We do not have to give them every freedom. That's one of the freedoms I would say you lose. Look, you can decide if you want to do this. You want to have surgery on yourself, that's fine. The crazy part about this is we have a country now that has this idea that the government should be doing these things for people in any circumstance. There is never a circumstance in which the government should pay for gender assignment surgery.
Remember, it's not the government paying for it. I mean, in the end, it's the government paying for it. It's all of us that are paying for it. And I really don't want to pay for a sex offender to have gender reassignment surgery. You want to talk about cruel and unusual punishment? Think about the 15-year-old boy he sexually assaulted. That's cruel and unusual punishment.
And I think one of the big things about it is that the doctors that have been evaluating this person have said it's not medically necessary. Right. So the fact that they would pay $20,000 to $30,000 for something that's not medically necessary, I mean, it's not cruel and unusual punishment to not give somebody a surgery that's not going to save their life or something like that.
It's never medically necessary. Can we point that out?
Is anyone surprised it comes out of the Ninth Circuit?
No.
Right.
It's a circus when it comes to decisions.
It never is medically necessary, but this day and age, it is kind of surprising that they didn't find a doctor who would come in and say, yes, this guy has to get this, or else he just cannot live a normal life.
I'm sure they'll find someone. When it gets to the Supreme Court, they'll dig that person up.
I'm sure there'll be somebody on MSNBC tonight. They can go
I agree. You're probably right. I don't know. I mean, like I think that the larger problem here, beyond just the absurdity of this case, is that when we are a country that is increasingly becoming a group of people who think when we have a problem that's difficult, we better go to the government to sort it out for us. Because they're the ones, look, they have to cover our health care. When that gets difficult, they have to cover that. When we have housing difficulties, well, they have to cover that. When it's like they're always the end decider. We look at them as sort of almost like a religious leader. Please tell us which direction we're supposed to go with all these difficult choices. That's not the way it's supposed to be, at least in America.
What about like tough on crime? Right? Republicans are getting weak on crime. We see this over and over again. For some reason, they're like afraid to be tough on crime. Now we have this coddle the criminal mentality. What if you paid for your own gender reassignment surgery and you paid tens of thousands of dollars to get that done? And then you find out that you could have sexually assaulted some kid, go to prison, and they'll pay for it for you? Right. I mean, come on.
It sounds like you're cutting a good deal for them for committing a terrible crime. It's like, it's not the incentive that you
Where's
want.
the punishment?
Yeah.
That's a great point. And also, if my money is going to be going to someone's plastic surgery, it should be mine. Right? I should be able to do that first.
Well, does that
this is America.
Does that open the door for that? For somebody to make a claim like that based on some sort of diagnosis that's not very nailed down, like gender dysphoria? That's something that there's a lot of disagreement on. So what else can somebody come into prison and say, I've got this condition, I've got this mental...
I identify with larger breasts.
You might have a legal case in the Ninth Circuit. I don't know.
And I want Anchorman hair. I just don't have it.
I mean, it does bring up an interesting point, Stu, that you touched on, is that it's like we forget that in the Constitution, it doesn't say the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, taxpayers to pay for my abortions, taxpayers to pay for my gender reassignment surgeries, taxpayers to pay for all of the things that I want.
This is the problem with a government that gets too big. We wind up relying on it for everything, right? Like the point here is that if you want to do these things to yourself, you can do them to yourself. We live in a country where that's available, but it is your responsibility. I mean, there's never an elective surgery that should ever happen in prison, right? Like, even if it's the greatest surgery in the universe that we all love, I mean, that just shouldn't be part of your prison experience, right? If there's a medical thing to keep you alive, obviously we want to treat prisoners, even though they may have done something horrible, you still treat them humanely. But the idea that you're essentially improving your body while you're in prison in your own eyes, that is very much in your own eyes and probably not in anyone else's eyes. But like that is, although she looks beautiful, I will say.
Does he really?
Sorry, he looks beautiful.
I mean, I can understand why he wants the surgery. I'll just say that. He doesn't look very feminine.
It's going from
male to female.
Okay.
Does not look very feminine currently.
It looks like Andre the Giant.
Yeah, same thought. I wasn't sure because we played a clip of Princess Bride of Andre the Giant this morning, and I was like, is that why that's in my head? But I think you're right. That's what I see too. Is Andre the Giant.
Moving on, Joe Biden. He has just had misstep after misstep after misstep in this campaign. He was talking about his healthcare program that he wants to offer. And I feel like we're getting to the point where it hurts to watch. It's really tough to watch him stumble. Let's take a look.
And so anybody who is in a position where they're on Medicaid, they automatically be enrolled with no cost. In addition to that, we also have a mechanism to control drug prices. It's not. We're no longer using chemical-based things. All this thing we're dealing with cancers and other issues related to the immune system are bio-oriented. They're very expensive, and we should set up a system, which I propose, which I will if I'm elected president, that allows the folks at the folks at Health and the Health Department in the United States, HHS, to be able to go out and bring together outside experts and make a judgment when there's a patent being sought by a drug company, what that patent, what it's worth, what the range is. Set that number, and then you're not able to raise that drug price unless beyond the cost of inflation in healthcare.
At what point, Stu, do we stop calling these gaffes and start being a little bit concerned?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Biden as a candidate has, I think, always been fun. I mean, I've never liked his policies, but he's been fun. This is starting to feel sad. Like it doesn't, we've talked about this, I think, before on the show, and that like Barack Obama's first debate with Mitt Romney, he came out rusty, I would say. Like, I mean, he was never a great debater, but like he felt like he just hadn't done it in such a long time. He needed to like stretch his legs a little bit. And then he was better in the second and third debates. You wondered if that was the same thing with Biden. He comes out, he hasn't done this in a while. Is he going to shake the rust off? It does not seem to be happening. I mean, every day there's a new one of these clips, and his style is not conducive to a guy who's losing it mentally. He's a rapid fire speaker. He's off the cuff. He tries to make it sound sort of conversational, and I feel like there's just those little gaps in whatever's firing in the brain isn't connecting. Yeah. And now if you're a slow, deliberate speaker, you're maybe a person who does a lot off prompter, you might be able to get away with that. Joe Biden doesn't. I mean, part of his ability is to be able to kind of fire off the cuff and sound conversational. That seems to be going away. And the biggest thing here is not necessarily what that means for his presidency. It's not even what it means for his ability to beat other Democrats or policies. It's about when this becomes a big enough issue that Democrat voters say, "Crap, he's going to lose to Trump if we give him this nomination." That's when he tanks. There's been one poll out that's kind of supported that it might be happening. It's only one poll. It's there's been a couple of others on the side that have sort of supported this idea that he's falling right now. But when people see these things day after day after day, you start to lose confidence that he is electable because his entire campaign is run off the idea that he's the most electable.
Yeah,
with all due respect to people over the age of 80, and I've got tons of friends that I play gin rummy with every weekend that are over the age of 80. But what do the Democrats think when you offer up a host of candidates that are pushing 80 and above? Yeah. What do you think you're going to get? You're talking about the rust. You don't get the rust off an AMC Eagle. That's basically what Joe Biden is right now.
Yeah. Aaron?
Yeah, and there was this myth, I think, when the campaign started, before he really started getting out, that he had the second win that was going to come. After that first debate, he was going to just rejuvenate, he was going to focus, and you're going to see the old Joe from 2012 and before, who was, vibrant, he was fiery, he had that energy. And it's clear he just doesn't have it. And, I look at videos like the one we just saw, you would think they would kind of edit that to cover him, or maybe say, "Hey, Joe, you want to run that again?" But it seems like his people are not even able to protect him from the appearance that he's not competent. And how long is he going to be able to last in the campaign like that? I don't know.
It makes me wonder, his wife was not very enthusiastic about people backing him, and even said, maybe there are better candidates than Joe. I wonder I wonder if that was part of it, is that she sees that this is not going to be good for him.
It's possible. I mean, I think he, in that clip, he just looks tired. Yeah. And, say all you want about Donald Trump. Like, a lot of people criticize him because he's not a young guy either. I forget, he's what, 76, is he? But Donald Trump always looks like he has energy. Donald Trump always seems like he is the same person. He doesn't seem like he's, I mean, I was always impressed, going back to even 2016. The guy was running all over freaking Iowa. We did that life for like one weekend, and I wanted to kill myself. It was like, I mean, just going around like, in a bus all over the state for hours and hours, saying the same speech over and over again. It's not fun. And he survived it well. We had a reporter who went to Iowa and saw, I think, 11 of the candidates in 3 days, and saw Joe Biden 3 times at 3 different speeches. And he said 2 of the times he came out, he was completely fine. He seemed totally normal. And one time he came out, it looked like he was just going to pass out. He was so tired. And this is, it seems like life has taken its toll here.
So remember, they kind of went through this with Hillary Clinton during her campaign. The problem with that was she was the candidate. Yeah. Now, they have a choice to make. They cannot make that mistake unless they go with Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. Personally, as a Trump guy, I'd rather go against Bernie or Elizabeth Warren any day of the week than I would go against even a gaffe Joe Biden.
Oh, that makes me so scared. I understand your point is that Donald Trump would theoretically have a better chance of winning against them because they're so crazy. Yeah. But if they did pull it off, I'm terrified for the country.
High-risk proposition.
I know. I have great faith in the American people. I always have. Some disappoint me, but I cannot see America electing crazy Bernie Sanders or Pocahontas into the Oval Office. And I
go back and forth on this one because, I agree with you that they would be worse candidates to go up against Donald Trump. I mean, Elizabeth Warren is grown in a lab to lose to Donald Trump, the perfect candidate to lose to Donald Trump. But it is a high risk thing. And if something out of control of the president, like something like the economy, I mean, look what happened to McCain essentially in 2008, right? The economy collapses in October 2008. There's no way, I don't care how good of a candidate the Republicans had that time, they were going to lose. The same thing, something similar happens in August or September of 2020. It doesn't matter who Donald Trump is. He's going to lose if the economy tanks like that. The American people are just based on that. They're going to pick whoever is on the other side, and that's what makes me scared about someone like Sanders. Because if they're there, if it's a one-on-one battle, anything can happen.
I'll make an admission to you. So I pulled out about 50% of my stock holdings after watching 2 weeks of the news media absolutely go on an all-out barrage that we're going into a recession. As a business owner with no signs of a recession whatsoever, recession, they control so much information, they could push this country into a recession for the sole reason to what? Take out Donald Trump. These reporters and anchors don't give a rat's ass about any of us. They don't care about the economy. All they want is a new president.
Yeah. All right. Back in a minute.
Tough.
Really, I mean, I agree. If the media says. Before we jump back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So if you are one of the millions of Americans who you just walk around all day in pain and you just think, hey, this is life now, I'm just always going to be in constant pain. What does it, Stu? Like 66% of people who are in pain here?
Yeah, they
just think that's...
Yeah, that's the way it is, and I'm never going to get rid of it, so this is my life now.
It's so depressing.
Yeah, it is really depressing. And it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, there are things you can try. A lot of people have tried, bits and pieces of little things, maybe a medication or some eating regimen that didn't work out. Why not try Relief Factor? It's $19.95. You get a couple of weeks. 3 weeks?
Yeah.
A 3-week quick start program. And if it works for you, great. It works for, I think, 70% of people. So why not give that a shot?
It works for me. I had a car wreck and I had a bunch of herniated protruding discs in my spine. Yeah, that's not fun. It was really painful and I tried all these other solutions. Nothing worked, even my other hippie methods like acupuncture.
Wow.
That didn't work either, just Relief Factor. It's 100% drug-free and you can go to relieffactor.com, get that 3-week quick start pack for $19.95 or you can call 800-500-8384. While we're on the topic of the Democratic presidential candidates, Beto, our good friend Robert Francis, good friend of the show, I know you watch every night, I know, hello Robert, he had an interesting comment. I guess it's not so interesting because it's kind of par for the course with Democrats, but he was asked if he would support late-term abortion, and here's what he had to say.
I was born September 8th, 1989, and I want to know if you think on September 7th, 1989, my life had no value.
Of course I don't think that, and of course I'm glad that you're here.
But
you referenced my answer in Ohio, and it remains the same. This is a decision that neither you, nor I, nor the United States government should be making. That's a decision for the woman to make.
Wait.
I mean, of course I'm not saying that, but
yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I guess you could theoretically make an argument that Beto shouldn't be making that decision or the government should be making that decision, but he's the guy. He's the guy you're talking about. Like, he's either alive or dead based on this decision. Seems like it's a decision maybe he should have some involvement in. And while I know it's difficult to get, the answer to a question from a baby, it might be something that we put into the law that would protect their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Or maybe err on the side of this baby probably would prefer to be alive.
Yeah, like the Democrats act as if we don't know, we can't ask them, so I guess we just assume that they want to be killed. Yeah.
This makes me so upset because when I try to talk to young people about pro-choice versus being anti-abortion, which is where I stand because I believe that life begins at conception, what I try to do is back them down. Okay, well, at 6 months, do you think it's life? Yes. All right. Well, at 3 months, do you think? And then it starts to get a little shaky as the earlier you get. At least that's having an argument and a discussion, and I can move them to why I believe life begins at conception. But nobody with common sense thinks that life doesn't begin until you're out of the womb. And one day before, the difference between a mother killing her child in a bathtub of postpartum depression or whatever it may be to one day earlier, she's not a murderer compared to that she is.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
The weird part about that question is it wasn't a medical context. You know, usually this conversation happens with, well, to save the life of the mother, or because the baby needs to get out or is not viable.
The woman's
We're talking about a viable fetus one day before birth. And Beto is saying, well, the woman can choose whether or not that baby lives or not. I mean, that's crazy to me. That seems like the most extreme. That's as extreme as it can get.
Yeah, I mean, there is no policy held by Republicans that is as insane as extreme as they are in abortion, and unpopular, by the way. I mean, third term abortions are 87 to 13 or 84 to 13 as far as unpopularity. The overwhelming majority of Democrats disagree with the position that these candidates are staking out on this issue. And, you know, to be able to say to someone who says, was my life worth anything on September 7th? And you say, well, no, of course it is, but she should be able to kill you. That's not a rational, logical.
He's literally saying your life had value, but your mother could have just chosen to.
But if your mother's convenience is more important.
Right, that's more value.
Right, like value here. Mother's convenience, your life here. Basically what it's saying.
4 hours later, after you're out of the womb and have been born, I would like someone to ask Beto O'Rourke, is it okay for then your mother to murder you then, to suffocate you with a pillow, to throw you in a dumpster? Is that okay?
And for some
under
reason,
his philosophy,
they would say no.
They would say no, exactly.
Why would you say
It's most
no?
shocking when you see people who have children and who have seen that process through to be able to hold a stance like that. I mean, just for me personally, I can't imagine looking at somebody right up to the point of birth and saying that's not a life until it comes out. I mean, anybody who has had children kind of sees how the life develops through that time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Grant, to your point, it's like, I wish we were having the conversation on whether or not life begins at conception, and that was a conversation we were having. But when the conversation is every single presidential candidate in the Democrat Party is advocating for late-term abortion, you're talking about a fully formed, viable fetus that could live outside the womb. That's terrifying.
It's terrifying. And I'll go back to studies that have shown at how many months into the pregnancy that a fetus can start to feel pain. You talk about those things, you can go at these arguments with a scientific approach to try to bring people in just to get them to at least see why we stand where we stand. But on this, when you think, and this shows how far apart conservatives and liberal socialists are, when it comes to common sense, that I would think that this would be the most simple form of common sense, that you cannot murder a baby the day before it's born. That somehow we don't see eye to eye on that shows you the divide here is crazy, and I feel very, very sorry for people that can't see it.
That's your last word.
And when you go down and you do what you're talking about, backing people into it, because if you say, well, can we kill them a minute after birth, everyone's going to say no to that. And what about a minute before? Well, most people are going to say no to that. Keep backing them up until you find that time. At some point, they're making a decision where 1 minute it's murder and the minute before it's completely fine and a human right. That's obviously insane, right? Like, we all know that that's completely nuts. And so I think when people actually spend the time to think about it, they usually come out on the right side of it, but it's hard to get people to think about it. It's uncomfortable, and it's one of those things we just rather just ignore and hope it goes away. Well, it's not going to go away unless we deal with it.
All right, back in a minute. They are the party of science. Coming up in overtime, you're not going to want to miss this. Ilhan Omar is listed in the divorce filings as being a mistress. So we're going to have to, I feel like we need Glenn here to do a chalkboard just to remind us of all of her personal history with the husband, and then not the husband, and then the husband again, and it's crazy. So if you do not have a BlazeTV subscription, you got to get one. You got to go to blazetv.com. You can use promo code NEWS, and you will get $10 off of your annual subscription. Or if you are money's tight, or maybe you're just really cheap and you don't like to spend money and you don't want to miss the conversation, it's also available on podcast, and that is free. You can look it up, the news and why it matters. Go to Apple, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. And remember to subscribe and rate us. The more you subscribe and rate us, the more people get to see and hear this lovely little show of ours. So you can go there, or you can go to blazetv.com. Overtime starts next.